You ever get that weird fizzy feeling when everything finally clicks into place and you realize karma's not some vague poetic thing? It's an actual spreadsheet of receipts, violations, and police reports? That's the feeling I had the morning I watched a city inspector measure the rotten porch my landlord slapped together with 2x4s in blind optimism. Felt good. Felt like justice. And yes, I'll take that tiny smug grin. Name's Mark. I'm 31, working tech, and for 3 years I paid rent to the kind of landlord you see in those why you shouldn't rent TikToks. The place was a cramped 2-bedroom above a laundromat on the corner of Cedar and Monroe. Cozy, if your definition of cozy includes peeling paint and a heater that sounds like it's auditioning for a horror movie. Landlord's name was Greg Turner, but around the neighborhood he was just Greg the Investor. Think teeth too white for the rest of his personality, and zero regard for anyone else's stuff. It started small, not small like a paper cut, small like a single missing dryer. There was a communal laundry room in the basement where everyone tossed quarters and curses into an ancient machine. One day, I go down to grab my laundry and the dryer is gone. Poof! Vanished. No note, no email, nothing. I assumed theft at first. The neighborhood has characters. But when I knocked on Greg's office door, he just shrugged. He said, "It was broken. I took it out." "No notice? No heads up?" I asked. He smiled that smile. "I handle building stuff, Mark. If something's busted, I make the call." Translation, I decide what belongs to you. Cool, fine, whatever. I let it slide. Then the plumbing bill came. I woke up one morning to a stack of paper that would make any adult cry, a repair invoice for hundreds of dollars slapped on my doorstep with tenant responsibility written across it like some kind of ransom note. The leak in the bathroom? According to Greg, normal wear and tear. According to every plumber I'd ever meet, the pipe had been butchered by someone who hated water and craftsmanship. I spent my lunch break calling around, pulling receipts, and trying not to laugh when Greg told me to pay up because it was my problem. I paid. I paid because I was tired of arguing, and because rent was due, and because I had a life beyond being his target practice. I paid. And that's when this whole thing stopped being passive-aggressive landlord nonsense and turned into a personal vendetta. A couple weeks after I met with a lawyer, just got basic advice, nothing crazy, Greg starts ratcheting the pressure. A notice appears in my mailbox. Amendment to lease. Parking fee added. $150 a month. Lease? What lease? I read every line like it was a foreign language. Nothing about a parking charge had ever been in the contract. I called him. "You went to a lawyer?" he asked, like that was a crime. "I went for advice. You can't just add fees retroactively." "You'll pay," he said, "or we'll see." The energy changed after that. He seemed to get a little bolder, came by more, left notes, stared at me in the hallway like he owned the building's wallpaper. Once while I was at work, someone texted me a photo. My front door, unlocked, scuffed, and suspicious. I came home and the lock was jacked. Scratches on the wood, nail marks. He'd been in my apartment while I was out getting storage boxes. My stomach dropped in a way I'd never felt. Not robbed, not even entirely violated, but like a line had been crossed that you don't cross with a human being you're renting from. I called the police. They came out, took a report, said the officer suspected unlawful entry. Then Greg showed up that afternoon with his "I was checking the property" aura. He said, "You left the window open. I had to make sure there wasn't mold." He said it like he was doing me a favor. I said, "You did not have my permission to enter my home." He got louder. I got calmer. I recorded his voice with my phone like everybody should do these days. Not because I'm paranoid, but because documentation is a non-negotiable tool now. When he started telling me I had to be out by a specific time on move-out day, which, spoiler, is not how leases or the law works, I walked into the police station the next morning and told them I expected trouble. Best call I ever made. Here's where it gets delicious. A week before I finally packed up my last boxes and said goodbye to the perpetually humming heater, I called the city building inspector. I wasn't playing Robin Hood. I was playing survival. I gave him the rundown. illegal plumbing, dodgy gas heater with no up-to-code certification, a porch that looked like it was held together by prayer and 2x4s, and oh, by the way, the laundry equipment that disappeared. I read him the whole list like I was reciting a grocery list for disaster. I told him, send someone out. You'll see. He sends someone the next day. Inspector Tom Baker. He didn't look like a superhero. He looked like a guy who's seen what humans do to drywall. He measured, he took notes, he made the kind of face that only building inspectors make when you've pushed the limits of what's legal and to what's ridiculous. Every violation, $500 a day. Yep, $500 leaking like a faucet for every day it remained uncorrected. I watched Greg Face go through a compression sequence I'd only seen when my code throws an error and I don't know why. He started pacing. He'd been playing a numbers game for years, scooping up properties and pretending incompetence was a business plan. Now the math was turning on him. He tried intimidation. Classic move. Show up, aggressive posture, pretend he's the nice guy and you're the problem. You gonna fight me? He asked on our stairs, voice full of condescension. I shrugged. You mean sue you? Nah, man. I'd rather the city do it. He didn't love that. Then he tried the nuclear move, which in Greg's speak was to make my exit the worst possible thing. On the morning of my move, I ran out to the storage unit to grab the last of the boxes, came back an hour later and found my door nailed shut. Not in a picnic way, in a he literally hammered boards into the frame way. The nails were large, the message was larger. Get out now or else. I called the police and asked for a supervisor. That was the exact moment Greg realized he might be deeper than he'd bargained for. He took off before the supervisor arrived. Cops took statements, photographed the door like it was evidence in a crime procedural, and neatly handed Greg a charge for breaking and entering. Felony level stuff, by the way. Not a slap on the wrist, not a strongly worded letter. Real consequences. I'll be honest, I didn't want that. I didn't want to ruin anyone's life, but here's the thing. He'd been living off the idea that he was untouchable. That's a dangerous currency. When someone treats you like a line item or a nuisance to be shaken down for extra rent, you've got two choices. Swallow it and move, or document, escalate, and let the system work. I chose the system. The inspector closed the case with a stack of fines and a checklist of repairs that would cost Greg a lot more than a missing dryer. The police slapped on a criminal case. The city sent notices, certified letters, and suddenly the man who used to smirk at tenants for daring to question him was stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare he'd created for himself. What I learned? First, keep your receipts, take pictures, save dated emails. Second, don't let pride keep you from getting advice. A quick visit to a lawyer saved me a lot of guesswork. And third, if something feels illegal or dangerous, like a gas heater that sounds like a haunted tin can, call the inspector. You're not telling tales. You're protecting yourself. And for the record, I paid my rent on time every single month for 3 years. Except that 1 month when I was forced to cover that bogus plumbing charge. That's the month Greg tried to weaponize a tiny delay into persecution, and that's the month everything changed because I didn't just grumble, I built a paper trail and I used it. People always ask, did you feel guilty? No, not really. I felt like I'd done what anyone should do when faced with someone who bulldozes boundaries for profit. The satisfaction wasn't malicious, it was more like relief, like finally closing a door that had stuck for too long. If you like this kind of story and want more tales where bad people get their comeuppance, smash that subscribe button. I've got a couple more landlord horror stories queued up that will make you never blindly trust a for rent sign. If you're watching and been through something similar, drop a comment. I want to hear which move you would have made. Also, if you want practical tips on documenting tenant issues, hit the bell so you don't miss the breakdown video I'm planning. Fast forward, I moved out with my last box and a weird mix of exhaustion and freedom. I left the place cleaner than when I arrived, mostly because I like to rub it in when karma's on my side. Greg, he now has a stack of municipal fines and at least one felony charge on his public record. He lost leverage he didn't even realize he had until it was gone. The building? It got slapped with orders to fix the porch, inspect the gas lines, and either replace the laundry machines or return them. The neighbors? They stopped calling him by his charming investor nickname and started calling him that guy who got nailed. And not in a fun way. I don't recommend playing vigilante, but I do recommend being smart. Document, call the right people, and don't let someone bully you into weird fees or illegal entries. If enough people stop letting that kind of behavior slide, landlords like Greg stop thinking they can get away with it. One last thing. If you're about to move into a place that looks too good to be true, or you notice red flags like the ones I ignored at first, slow down, take photos, ask for permits, and if your landlord tries to pull the "we'll handle it" card, smile politely and say, "I'll handle calling the city if it's a safety issue." They don't like that. They really don't.